What's up, manga fans, and welcome back to another review of Bleach. This week's chapter 639, Baby Hold Your Hand 2. So, what can I say about this chapter other than the fact that it was plain weird? I mean, throughout this entire arc, I've noticed that Kubo has really been indulging himself in gore, but particularly body horror. Like, all the weird deformities we've seen, like with things like as not and Rukia's deformed, like her illusion for Byakuya, all of these kind of things, and the thing is, I love it. I think it's brilliant because it shows that Kubo is a brilliant artist and he can do horror styled art quite easily. And this chapter was a very good example of it. Mayuri's Bankai, I was not expecting that, and it just seemed so weird. The design, it makes me wonder what Kubo thinks when he comes up with these designs, because they're so different and intricate and just plain weird and nasty. And as I said, I really enjoyed it. But this chapter pretty much was a straight direct conclusion from last week's chapter, and the first thing we see, which is starting to make me think these are flags for Mayuri's downfall, is his patchwork he did on his arm last week wasn't up to the standards he claims it used to be if he had done it like beforehand, or like how he used to when you years ago or whatever. And he's basically stating it as shameful because the patchwork was, or the repairs or surgery as he calls it, wasn't as good as it usually is. And we can see because his arm was kind of twitching, it looked Frankenstein, and it seemed like he couldn't use it properly. And obviously if he's scrutinizing it, he must be telling the truth. It's not actually up to scratch. And funny enough, this kind of triggered something in Pernida, and it makes me think that Pernida was actually a bit more intelligent than I was giving it credit for, or to say more aware. I thought it was kind of brain dead in terms of the way it was responded to things in a kind of retarded fashion, like it couldn't really express itself correctly. In this one, it kind of picked up on what Mayuri should have said when it said shameful. It was like, shameful is like, does that mean you're nervous? Want to become more nervous? So in a way, it was mocking Mayuri, thinking, oh, Mayuri's scared, or it's so I'm gonna display some more weirdness that can make Mayuri scared. But obviously, Mayuri isn't scared. He's more interested in things, but he's just disappointed in his own surgery going wrong. But this is where things go weird, and the finger that Mayuri severed off grows into another hand, and I'm just sitting, wait, he can do that? So there's two left hands of the god now. And funny enough, it doesn't stop there. The original Pernida tears off, I think it was its ring finger or middle finger, and that results in a third hand growing. So we have three left hands of the god, and it's just very weird right now. And what was more weird is Mayuri somewhat knew about this. He says he read about the Soul King in his younger days, and he states that the hands actually are titled and actually specific to a I'd say their jobs. They actually have specific jobs or titles they're dedicated to. And we find out the right hand is in charge of stopping, so I'm guessing that's preventing things or stopping growth, keeping things from advancing, which is the opposite of the left hand. The left hand is advancing, and I'm guessing because it has this weird ability of growing, this is part of what it can do. Maybe it can make things grow, as I say, advance things in the universe or the Bleach universe. This is probably what the two hands do. One stops things and one makes things grow. I don't know. I can't really explain it properly at this point because, it's very vague what we've been given. But either way, this excites Mayuri, as he's the type of person where he would read things in books. He'd gain knowledge for it, but he would never actually believe it until he can prove it with his own two hands. But now that the knowledge or theories are right in front of him and there's some proof to it, he's excited about this battle because he can now actually prove it with the knowledge is true, and he's able to do it with his own hands. So without ado, Mayuri releases his Bankai, and funny enough, this is kind of another troll move from Kubo, because we find out it is very damn convenient for this battle. As I said last time, Mayuri is Batman, he's always prepared, and I'm not going to lie, Mayuri is an arse-puller character and he always is prepared for these battles. But going back to the Bankai, Yumichika actually panics because everyone knows what Ashisogi is capable of, not only crushing enemies or eating them, it has a massive radius of poison. So Yumichika believes that Mayuri is going to poison the Pernida to death, but he's like, why am I going to do that after learning all this? That would be a waste of time. He's like, instead, he actually births something else. He's like, I'm going to give birth to it, and he releases a modified version of Ashisogi, which is he calls it Matai Kuken Shoutai, and it looks so weird. It's just like still a baby, but it's got darker skin. It's got lanterns kind of coming out from the back of its head. It's got stitching going down its stomach. So you can imagine Mayuri's put something in there, but we find out later on what that means and what the stitching is. And behind it, it looks like it's leaning on intestines or something, like large intestines from the actual Ashisogi itself. And I'm just thinking, God damn, Mayuri is cruel. I know, like, he's Zanpakuto, he can do what he wants, but my gosh, it's literally just a tool to him. He is a scientist through and through. He doesn't care about how the Zanpakuto is in pain, which we see later on. And its intestines are just hanging out. It's just like, that's disgusting, and it's all for his own means. But he explains this modified form that he's created can give birth to another Ashisogi, based on the information that's sent to it. So, as he says, a new Ashisogi comes out of the stomach where it was stitched up of the Matai version of Ashisogi, and when it comes out, it's basically the convenient, counter movement, you might say, or counter action for Pernida. This Ashisogi comes out and it's screaming in pain because its body is covered in nerves. So even just being in the air, touching air or whatever, is hurting it because it has over 70,000 layers of nerves that are divided in its actual body. So it has a stupid amount of sensitivity. And this is basically, as I said, the perfect, you might say, convenient coincidence that Mayuri is able to counteract Pernida's nerve movements. So whenever Pernida uses the nerves, as we see, the only thing it did was peel off like the surface layer of, its body, nullifying Pernida's nerve, manipulation techniques. So Ashisogi wastes no time, just like in the Cell fight, and he goes to eat the Pernida arms, with Mayuri mocking, saying, if you can shoot through, let's see if you can shoot through all the walls of the nerves, all through all 70,000 layers before being swallowed completely. But obviously we know that's not going to happen, and Ashisogi swallows the last bit, and Mayuri is grinning with his teeth as usual because he thinks, yep, that's it, I've got my experiment I can work on. But in the background we see I know Nemu's has that nonchalant face all the time. She has a deadpan face, but we saw before that there was something weird about her, like she's thinking something differently about Mayuri when she said, I hope this battle goes well. And this time we see her face again, and I feel like that's another flag to say Mayuri is going to lose this fight. I don't think he's going to die. If he does, I'll be surprised, and I think that would be interesting, but I feel like that's just another thing to say he's going to lose this fight. As I said, or I haven't said it yet, but yes, Zell was another example of, Mayuri's Bankai eating, basically consuming the enemy, failing, and I don't think this is going to be any different for Pernida. It's most likely not going to work, and, Pernida's going to come out. But as I said, there's two outcomes. Either Mayuri succeeds with some contrived coincidence, he manages to do something, and it's like he beats Pernida that way after the failed swallow attempt, or he actually loses. And this is where I think it might actually happen. I think he might lose because, as I said, Nemu's face is making me think that way. Mayuri's obsessive nature and his overconfidence, and the fact that he's showcased so many tricks that are conveniently working, I feel like that's going to work against him. And as I said in the earlier part of the chapter, his surgery is not up to scratch, so I'm guessing he's not on point like he would be in the past. So I feel like that's going to work against him. But as I said, yeah, this was an interesting chapter. Pretty much was, typical Mayuri knowing exactly what to do. I'm not going to lie, it's kind of irritating that he's, being able to do all this stuff, but I find it funny at the same time because it's typical Kubo trolling. So that's more or less it. We'll just have to wait and see what's going to happen next time, and if we're going to see any more body gore like we've seen in this one. But yeah, as I said, that was it. Good chapter. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll speak to you guys next time. Take care.